At school, Golding's nickname among the pupils was Scruff, alluding to his unkempt hair and beard, a beard stained yellow from nicotine. Einstein in the last week of his life, one student went on to describe him. He wore baggy corduroy trousers and a shapeless Harris tweed jacket, and the gown he sometimes wore appeared to consist largely of holes held together by bits of once black material turned green with age. He was a walking contrast to the formal suits worn by the other teachers. In breaks and during lunch, he would sit apart from the other teachers, learning Greek or later scribbling in notebooks. This behavior led to endless leg pulling from his fellow colleagues. "How's the masterpiece coming on?" they would ask rhetorically. He seemed to take it all in good spirit at the time. It was a demon, however, he would later exercise in the radio play Break My Heart, broadcast in 1966. The play was set in a school and featured a teacher called Jerry, who never speaks but sits in a corner of the staff room trying to write novels, and is mocked by his colleagues for his literary ambition. Although many students found Golding neglectful, it must be stressed that many others did not. For some, he was a true educator who provoked them into thought instead of trying to cram them with facts. Both in English and religious knowledge, he would question the boys about their own insights and perceptions. In philosophical and political discussions, he would use role play, getting students to defend particular viewpoints. These exercises and discussions provided Golding with insights that were valuable for his future work, most obviously concerning Lord of the Flies. It occurred to more than one student that Golding stirred up antagonism between them in order to observe their reactions. And when delivering the second Ewing lecture at the University of California in Los Angeles in 1961, he confessed that he had learned to understand the nature of small boys with awful precision, because he had introduced a certain measure of experimental science into his teaching of them. He decided to see what would happen if they were given more liberty. He removed the restraining pressure of adult life. "Well, I gave them more liberty, and I gave them more liberty, and more, and more, and more. I drew further away." And though he did not go precisely into what happened with his experiment, he hinted that this liberty escalated into the real and present danger that someone could have been killed. He added, "Give me liberty, or give me death." Well, it was a point where these were no longer simple alternatives. Quote, "I suppose you can say I've been effectively writing since I was 35. I published my first book, or had my first book published, a book of verse, when I was 19. I just want to forget that one. Nobody knows anything about it. And then, out of the rest, you've got to take 5 years for the wary in the Navy, and then 10 years, perhaps learning to write by imitating other people and learning very late that, of course, I was merely writing other people's novels instead of my own. And it was not until I was 37, I suppose, that I grasped the great truth that you've got to write your own books and nobody else's. Then everything followed from that." End quote.